partnership, actually.
Okay.
Yes, because I'm summarizing a little bit the results of the different national research that we have presented earlier this morning. So basically, we made a further effort to try to compare the outcomes of the different researches and see if we find common issues and possibly common solutions beside, of course, the differences that each country has. So this is what I'm going to talk about. I would like to start with talking about the priorities or the groups that we have identified as more at risk when it comes to discrimination of young persons. And it has been mentioned already this morning, but it's relevant to stress that we have found it in all countries. The topic of the intersection between race and gender, it's a combination of inequalities that make young minority ethnic women, generally speaking, more at risk and more marginalized as a group. And if you add to this the other group of young persons who are those who suffer from multiple disadvantages, which again can combine race, gender, but also the social economic situation, the level of education, etc., then again, this is a group which should be prioritized when developing interventions on the topic of discrimination. Another relevant point is that in some of our research, it came out that those who do not have an academic qualification are more at risk and are more likely to report that they don't know their legal rights. So this is again something we should take in account. And these target groups, as we have actually started from this morning to say that these groups are at risk of intersectional discrimination. This means basically that they combine different situations that can create a higher risk of being discriminated in contexts like employment, housing, education, health services, etc. And talking about this, and if we said that the low level of qualification, then it's an indicator of being particularly at risk, then, as I have mentioned in my presentation this morning, then discriminatory counseling is something we should take in account, because it can lead people to have lower qualification than they could actually achieve. Another standing point of our project is the role of public legal education, because this is where we started from. And to start with it, we shall say that, as it was mentioned by some presenters, there is a lack of knowledge in terms of how public legal education can support youth empowerment. So the first thing we should say is that we don't know enough about that, and there should be more research and study on this topic. But in spite of that, what we have understood is that when we talk about public legal education, of course we shall concentrate on transferring hard knowledge, so information, but that's not enough. Our young persons need to be supported also with soft skills concerning the development of their confidence, the capacity to develop their potential, and ultimately to be empowered enough to be able to exercise their rights. Otherwise, it's useless to know your rights if you are not then in the position to exercise them. But again, it's important to know your rights and to know them when we are talking about the disadvantaged groups. Then the issue could be how we transfer this knowledge. And that's why we have focused our attention on the need to develop educational methodologies which can be interesting and understood by young persons and relevant for them. So, the involvement of young persons in our process, not only of at this first stage of research, but also in how we are going to develop the training materials, is in fact it aims to overcome this barrier. And another thing, which I think maybe came out from maybe from the Polish research, but I think it's relevant for all of us, is the fact that the actions we carry out in terms of trying to support anti-discriminatory practice with young persons should appeal on their emotions, not only on hard knowledge or passive knowledge. So, on one hand, developing their strengths and their attitude, but also to try to develop empathy and compassion between the rest of the groups of their peers and the other persons they are in relation to. And this will take us to the topic of empowerment, because we have mentioned already this morning that many young people fail to respond to law-related events, and even when they do, in most cases they do not reach the outcomes they expected to reach. So it means this is really an important point we should stress, and we should try to face it in the development of our training contents. And another point that was mentioned by someone this morning, and because we were running out of time, we didn't maybe dedicated enough time to that. The issue of language was raised, and it's of course very important when we talk about integration and accessibility. But we should not make the mistake of thinking that knowing the language of a place means to be integrated in that place. There is much more. So this is maybe a precondition, but that's not the only thing we should try to achieve. And finally, to conclude, I think we should mention the role that NGOs can play. You remember that our project targets young persons themselves, but also youth workers, or in any case professionals that have the capacity to meet this young person, to reach them, and to support them. So we came to the conclusion that NGOs and, generally speaking, informal networks working with and within the migrant communities, or in any case the most marginalized community, should be their role should be strengthened in terms of what they can do to develop the knowledge and the level of capacity of young persons to be able to exercise their rights. So it means that we have to make an effort to try to build these capacities within the NGOs, so to actually make sure that professionals know about these topics, including, for example, gender-based violence, which among youth workers it's maybe not on the top of the agenda, and so know how to deal with this situation and effectively support their young users. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Licia.